and welcome to the Battle of Dogs podcast. This week's episode will be a Dogs Bollocks discussion about who we think are the greatest living actors. Hope you guys enjoy.
Right, mate. Who are the greatest living actors of all time? I mean, of all time. It's such a go-to phrase. Of all time. Who are the greatest living actors of all time? You know, the ones that have lived for years and years. So bad.
Oh, so all those baby foreskins they're rubbing on their face, keeping them young.
Yeah, and liquidized rhino horn.
Oh yeah, and like tiger penis.
So, mate, the greatest living actors. Who are they?
Well, that's a tough one in some ways.
Give me one who you know would probably be in your top sort of 7 or 8, and we'll start from there. Like, who would be one that's like got to be right at the top?
Right at the top. Well, I'm
right
only
near the top.
I'm only really talking for me. So, like, when I'm talking about
sure.
who I think are the greatest actor, the emphasis is on the ones I have enjoyed and shit like that. I'm not going to speak for no one else, and hopefully there's some.
Well, thankfully, not everyone shares your taste, mate.
Yeah, thankfully.
I just.
Off the top of my head, maybe because I've recently watched a film with him in it, I think I'm going to have to go with Christian Bale.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For one simple reason, and just the commitment to a role, and not just because it's like some semi-douchey method acting approach, even though he is a bit of a douche apparently, but his commitment to a role, like in terms of like body transformation, there isn't anyone that I'd say commits body-wise to a role as hardcore as Christian Bale does. I mean, the contrast between The Machinist and then the Batman movies that he goes into,
100%.
Astounding. And then of course, like,
he's so skinny in The Machinist. Like, I know he has to be, but it's like worryingly.
Did he have to be? I felt like the director said to him casually, "Yeah, like, can you just like lose a bit of weight?
Maybe drop like 3 stone, and then like 6 stone later, any more, mate?"
Yeah, a bit like challenge accepted. I'm gonna eat only an apple and a can of tuna for months.
Yeah, per week.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah, so you got to commend that, but like, I think there are probably some actors who are doing that and it's not paying off, but with this guy, Christian Bale, he's definitely up there.
Yeah, because he also isn't just a chameleon in terms of like body.
Yeah, he's got mad range.
Exactly. So he's also got the acting chops to like really deliver home an actual good performance. Like, even though The Machinist isn't such a great film, it's certainly a good film because of his role in it.
Yeah.
Like, but even if you go to something that's a bit similar body transformation wise, American Psycho, like the level of I imagine steroids or just commitment to the workout he had to do to get that buff
with
for
him,
it.
probably commitment, because he does seem, I mean, not a psycho, but like he's definitely the kind who can get in the right frame of mind to just really commit and adopt a lifestyle change just for a role. And you know what, mate? That actually, is it Bale? That actually, yeah, in The Prestige, it ties in so well to when he's talking in The Prestige, and he says about committing to his craft. Have you seen The Prestige?
Yeah.
And he's that magician, and like you initially see that Chinese man who is walking into the carriage, and Hugh Jackman's character like, look at him, poor guy, whatever, and then Christian Bale's character, he's like, he thinks it's all a fake. You know, he's just committed his whole life or something like that.
You know, I remember. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
And then it turns out like he's doing the same thing. So that's a nice tie into who he really is in real life.
It'd be nice if he actually wrote that bit of line for the film.
Yeah.
But
it's more just serendipity that there's that lineup between the two.
I agree. I think that's probably a good justification why I think he springs to mind really quickly.
Sure. He's done quite a lot of great roles, man. We know that his Batman is arguably the best Batman on screen
so far.
And I mean, certainly, I mean, there's some that you can compare it to where it's like a million miles ahead of. Do we have to bring up Ben Affleck? You know, who I actually like, but his Batman just ain't really cutting it.
Ben Affleck, I find, is good at playing Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
If you need a character from Boston,
yeah,
then I guess Ben Affleck is a good person. Or
But I mean, this is the thing about Christian Bale. He's such a lead role a lot of the time. Like, you just don't have him as a side role, like Batman, American Psycho, Le Mans '66. I don't know if you've seen that. That came out 2019. That was a banging film. That with him and Matt Damon, already a star lineup. And Christian Bale, again, like slightly different to other roles he's done, but he just encapsulated that character. And he's obviously playing like, I forget the race's name in real life.
I don't know,
but it's based on like a true story, and he just nails it completely. Like, as far as I can tell. What else? He voiced Howl as well in Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah,
in the English version.
Yeah, even though I haven't really watched the English version because I'm a bit of a sub snob. Yeah.
I can't remember. I have watched it, and I can't remember if I watched the English or Japanese version now.
To be honest, I only know tangentially that he's in that because someone's told me, like you're telling me now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he lends himself to a lot of different roles.
Yeah.
And I sort of like it when I hear someone willing to become a voice actor as well, because it shows that they're not like going down the Tom Cruise line where like my face must be in it as much as possible.
I agree, mate. There's a few more we're going to talk about this episode who have done a few voice acting roles in between. So I like that.
Sticking with like the commitment to a role and method acting, like, even though I've just said that I'm not like a super fan of like the self-proclaimed method acting style, because I feel like a lot of them are just edging on being a bit of a douchebag.
Okay.
But one person I've always got a vibe from, and I've always liked his performance, is Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like he's like the poster child, well, not really child, but he's like the archetype, for lack of a better word, for what a method actor...
For what he does, man.
Honestly, like, the commitment to some of his roles are astounding. Like, I wish I was that committed to anything, let alone...
I think the one that blew me away of his films that I saw for the first time was My Left Foot.
Oh, when he learns to paint with his left foot. Yeah.
And, like... I mean, just to be able to play a role and play a character so well with, like, limited movement when you're not, like, limited as well, to get into that kind of role is impressive. But, I mean, he really made that film as good as it could be, I thought. Like you're not going to put anyone else in that role and the film is any better. Like, if anything, it's probably going to be worse. Daniel Day-Lewis is great one.
I've just remembered something. I mean, I'm like a casual like MMA boxer fan, and I listened to some of like Joe Rogan's stuff, and he was saying that one of the performances of Daniel Day-Lewis he really liked was In the Name of the Father, and I actually quite like that film.
Oh yeah,
but not because of like the boxing that touched it. I just like prison films in general.
Yeah.
And you know, there's the boxing associated with one of Daniel Day-Lewis's role, and he talks, Joe Rogan that is, talks about like when he's watching the scenes with Daniel Day-Lewis, he says, I almost get the feel as like a commentator in a fight for fighting that every punch Daniel Day-Lewis, he means it. It's not like a strictly fight choreographed boxing film where the punches aren't
purely acting.
Yeah, they're like clever film angles and it looks like it's hitting it.
Yeah.
And some of the fights are like filmed in reverse, so like the punch hits and then they like film it in reverse so it looks like you've been hit, and then they put it to us the right way,
like Tenet.
Yeah. And he's basically filmed this film, and it's given the impression to at least Joe Rogan, and I imagine a lot of other people I know who are interested in fight films, gives them the vibe that he's serious, and he's obviously dedicated a lot of time to learning the boxing and the fighting.
Cool, mate. And just to quickly say, Christian Bale did a role like that as well in The Fighter.
Oh yeah.
Or was he the trainer? Or was it Mark Wahlberg who was? I think Mark Wahlberg might have been the boxer actually. I can't.
Do you know what film I thought you were talking about? It's actually Jake Gyllenhaal, I think.
Southpaw.
Yeah, that's it.
Mate, well, let's go on to the one of my mate, Jake Gyllenhaal. I love this guy. I think he always brings like, he's one of those guys who brings a really unique feel to his characters. Like, some actors bring their own flavour to their roles so palpably.
I agree. I like Jake Gyllenhaal. The one thing I will say about him, I always get the feeling like he's clammy. Yeah. There's a lot of films I watch, like Prisoners.
Yeah.
One that you introduced me to, Nightcrawler.
Yes. One of his greatest roles is Louis Bloom.
Both astounding films. I love them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
because of him as well.
Zodiac as well. Every character he's got.
I still haven't seen that, but
he's got the same really wide, beady eyes.
Oh, his eyes are bit hypocritical, mate.
And like he's got this like skin that looks like it would be cold to the touch, and which lends itself absolutely brilliantly to films like Nightcrawler, where he's like super good in that. Like when you like pitch the film to me, it's a guy, he goes around filming things just to sell, and he's a bit of like a psychopath character.
He's an unsettling sociopath, mate.
Unsettling is the right bloody word, actually, to be honest, because it was unsettling.
I feel like it's probably hard to nail that, coming from a non-acting perspective, to nail that and not just seem weird and like you just trying to be that way, like to pull that off naturally. Like, unless he genuinely is a bit sociopathic, I think it's impressive. He's
got a good affinity for it, because if you think about his early film, Donnie Darko,
to have a performance like that so early in your career alone is testament to your ability. Mate, I really liked him in End of Watch as well. That's like a really good unsung hero of a film with I forget the other actor's name. He really captures the nuance of emotion in that, like when he's doing stuff with his partner, he's cop because he's a cop, and like you really capture like the nuance, and he has this like ability to make it seem like he's processing thoughts in the scene, even though that's not really happening, and I think that's really impressive. So Jake Gyllenhaal, way up there for me.
If you talk about like what you've just said there about like the intensity and one thing I was thinking about as you were saying it, and you're talking about like the face and. Yeah. I'm always reminded of like some of the expressions that Joaquin Phoenix is like famed for. Oh yeah. In a lot of his films, the like the emotion, like the absolute control he has over his face.
Well, mate, the disgust on his face in his character in Gladiator makes the audience disgusted at him so much, because he's so believably vile. He's believably vile to the max, and like he proper embodies like being a bastard to Maximus, you know? Like he's I think from a kid, if I'm thinking about films I watched as a kid, probably one of the characters I hated the most, but now love because of how convincing he is to be hated, you know? Like, he was good. And then obviously we have one of his more recent performances, which we've already done an episode on.
Oh, Joker, yeah.
Like, how phenomenal was that?
I mean, I went into that film thinking, like who's going to top a Joker done by Heath Ledger? Yeah,
because even like 10, 11 years later, it's still too soon.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how good Heath.
Yeah, exactly. And then I go into it, and I think that he benefited from it being a completely different sort of like take on it, and he did so well with, I would just say, the material that was given to him, and he took it to a direction I would have wanted from him, or not so much wanted. I put my faith that if anyone could do it, it would be Joaquin, and he delivered.
He sure did.
It's one of the films I went in so negative, thinking this is going to be another trash DC, whatever, and whatever will be. Go in, come out. I'm like, wow. I think I need to see that again. And we did multiple times.
I think I'm on 3 or 4 watches now. That's within just over a year of release.
I think I'm on 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
And mate, we have to add as well the fact that he's done so many, like, there were several spontaneous moments that were kept that were purely him, which just shows his vision as well of the character and of the story he was so in tune with it. Like we've talked before already in the episode, but where he's dancing in the bathroom, the bits where he's getting the fridge and just doing all his dancing.
I feel like Joaquin does well alone.
Yeah,
like when the camera's just on him, and
I think that's a fair.
I like the scenes in Her as well, when he's like sitting on the stairs. Scenes in. I'm just gonna be listening every movie he's been in, basically. Any scene where it's just him. I mean, Walk the Line's like completely different. Like, I'm pretty sure he learned to play the guitar. He learned how to try and sing like Johnny Cash did, and that. I mean, I'm very reluctant to like a lot of musical films But I really enjoyed his performance in that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think he really benefits, or we benefit actually, when it's just him and we get to see him really do what he does best and have control, and almost seem like he doesn't have control, especially in the Joker where we're seeing like a spiraling madman.
Yeah.
But it's just so... It's so Joaquin almost. It could be an adjective for some of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, mate. I think if we're going to talk about people who just come across so real, Kate Winslet is definitely one of my top. I mean, she's top 3 actresses of all time, dead or alive, for me. But actors and actresses combined, whatever, she's way up there. I think like she's one of the most, again, believable, obviously iconic role, Rose in Titanic. She's absolutely excellent in that. I thought she was brilliant in The Holiday. Like, you've got Jude Law and Cameron Diaz alongside, and obviously Jack Black as well. But like, I'm not going to class Jack Black as a particularly like high caliber.
He's good in his own
actor.
way.
Yeah, I mean, School of Rock, absolutely insane.
Mate, Tenacious D.
But like, but when it comes to The Holiday, I feel like Kate Winslet stole the show, because for me, she was the most sort of. She captured like so many different areas of emotion too. A lot of them were not necessarily one-dimensional, but I felt like Kate was so three-dimensional. And then to add on top of that, mate, to show some versatility, her appearance in Extras, Ricky Gervais's show Extras, was like absolutely golden. Like she just really delivered a humility to be able to be that like self-deprecating and pretend to show herself as this kind of really judgmental character, and like just pretend that she's, you know, just in it for the kind of money or whatever and doesn't really care. Like she smashed it. So Kate Winslet well up there for me.
Fair. I mean, I personally wouldn't put her in like. I mean, I'm not really a big fan of like top 10s, but I don't think she quite makes.
She's not like a top tier for you.
No, I mean, if I was to subcategorize into like men and women, she might be high up there, but I like to think of it more broadly than that. For me, like if I'm thinking of like female, I'd say Natalie Portman's always done
super duper.
Yeah, I mean,
well up there.
Yeah, I mean, again, she's like a bit like a Jake Gyllenhaal type. She was in it early. Like I remember Leon, like,
oh man,
realizing after that was Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
and just like even at that age, I don't even know how old she was. Like
one of the best children actors of all time.
Yeah, and I really don't like children in films usually, because I almost feel like if I was that age and I was doing that, I'd feel so silly. So I'm almost like tapping into how silly some of them might feel. But then they're professional actors at the end of the day, so maybe that's not right. But she was arguably, even from an early age, very diverse in her ability as an actress. Yeah. And that only, I think, grew and grew and grew and grew and grew throughout her catalogue of work. Yeah. And I mean, it might just be because she happens to have been in some films that, me personally, I really enjoy, like, even though it's...
Attack of the Clones.
Well, let's not talk about that. I was just thinking, even though, again, being a bit of a purist snob, I preferred the comic book, but the V for Vendetta film, like her performance in it, like playing...
She's excellent in that.
Playing Evie and stuff, like that was...
She's dated, not to judge a woman by the men that she goes with at all, but she has dated a couple of very high-profile characters. She's had V, Darth Vader. she has, and it takes a strong woman to achieve that. So just to throw that in there. But no, Natalie Portman stands on her own. Like, I think she's one of the most convincing actresses.
Sounds like R2D2 agrees.
Yeah. Or was it BB-8?
Was that BB-8?
It's BB-8, mate. Yeah. Blurring the lines. And I really liked her in Garden State. Actually, a cool little like a lower budget movie, but again an unsung hero. It's the one with Zach Braff. She plays the part of like this really underdeveloped, immature young woman, and to have something like that and then have other roles where she's so much more mature, and to smash them both, it's just testament to her range again. So Natalie Portman, another stellar actress.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on, I remember one specific film that I remember was like super popular for a long time, and that was the Black Swan. I've just had to Google what year it came out, because I remember it coming out the same time, something. I was 2010. That doesn't match up, but anyway, I remember
How are we there already, mate? You know, we can cut this out, so don't worry. But how are we at 20 minutes already?
Oh wow.
Fuck. Okay.
So yeah, I'd say Natalie Portman's quite good. I liked her performance in Black Swan a lot.
Yeah.
I'd say probably who else would be there?
Actors and actresses.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've got to throw Gary Oldman out. I know that you want
Gary Oldman. Yeah.
because again, if you're talking about someone who spanned over their career, like he was in Leon as well.
Yeah,
and
he was the villain. Yeah, he was super good.
He was superb in that, man. I love like the taking the pills and the cricking of the neck, and then you go from that to something like Commissioner Gordon in Batman, and it's just like it's a side role, but he's like so perfect for it. Like he works so well. Sirius Black, amazing, and then his small role in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Like I've never seen him do something that wasn't at least like a 8 out of 10 performance, even when it doesn't need to be.
Fair.
So and Lee Harvey Oswald as well in JFK, which is like amazing film, man.
I haven't seen that film.
I mean, it's like a 3-hour type deal, so you got to be in the mood. But yeah, he's superb. So Gary Oldman, way up there. And you know, he did voice work. He did voice work for Call of Duty, Kung Fu Panda, Spyro. I only found this out a few days ago. I was like,
yeah,
what?
he does.
Yeah,
Spyro. Yeah, the more recent video games, right? He played in Cinder or one of the
something
dragons
like
in it. Yeah, I remember because it was quite a. I remember playing that game when like Frodo. I mean, you know, Elijah Wood plays Spyro, and then you got Kevin Spade or David Spade. I forgot the name of the comedian guy. He plays Sparks, the dragonfly.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Gary Oldman's like one of the like dragons, the fire breathing one. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one I want to throw out as just a quick one to go over, but Hugo Weaving. He's got an incredible CV. He's been V in V for Vendetta. He's been Agent Smith in The Matrix.
My fancy, yeah.
Lord Elrond in Lord of the Rings. He was the father of the main guy in Hacksaw Ridge. He voices Megatron. Like, and you just think, how does the voice? Because it's so different to something you hear in like.
But he's like famed for his voice, man. Like.
Yeah, but that's Megatron is such an iconic voice now from the films. Even if you're not into Transformers films, you know that voice.
Yeah.
You know. And obviously he was Red Skull in Captain America. Like he's done a lot of high-profile characters.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'd put his voice as being the more famous thing because he probably spends a lot of his roles having his face like not severely altered, but he very rarely has his true face. It's either covered by sunglasses in The Matrix, a full-on mask in V for Vendetta,
and yet he's so good at conveying emotion with his face. Like things like in The Matrix and in Lord of the Rings, like there's scenes where like he doesn't even have to speak, and you get so much from him. I love actors like that.
I agree. I tell you who else I think does sort of like a good I guess control of like face, and like when you linger at their face, it's very intense. And I'm thinking specifically of one film that he's associated with. It's a very probably his most famous.
I think I might go on.
Silence of the Lambs. Anthony Hopkins.
Okay. Yeah.
Just the scene where he's like talking to Clarice Starling, and the camera is like on his face, and he does that famous like, you know, his face is just conveying so much. And he doesn't really have like what I'd call a super expressive face, but I'm getting so much from it.
I feel like, you know, as they say like some people are resting bitch face. I feel like he's got resting face, you know, like there's something unsettling about it at all times. Even if he's smiling, it's sort of a bit. I find him a bit almost creepy in like a dark way, which meant he was made for that role in Silence of the Lambs. To me, that's my take on
like
it.
If he was at the bus stop while you went for a bus and he started speaking, you'd probably like edge a bit away from him.
Especially if it's 10:30 at night and there's no one else around and the lamppost is out.
and he's just going...
Yeah, so he's a big one, man. I think you can't talk about amazing actors if you don't mention Leonardo DiCaprio. That, like, come on, man. He's easily one of... And, you know, I think I read this fact. He's the best paid, like, highest earning actor to have never done a sequel, ever. And that got me thinking: is that the key to like almost never doing like a shit film? Maybe. Because films that are prone to having sequels are often.
Do you know
they fall off?
Do you know what I love about Leonardo DiCaprio? He lends himself so well to being memed, and not even like poke fun at him. Yeah. You could literally spend ages trawling through the internet finding memes associated with him, from The Great Gatsby, pretty much anything he's done with Tarantino.
Yeah.
Anything with him pointing nearly. Or holding anything. Literally anything. Holding glasses, pointing at the TV, holding a drink. It's always seemed to be when he's holding a
microphone in an office in front of people.
And I really liked it when he finally won his Oscar. He like didn't make a big song and dance about it. He put it down. He like nearly forgot it as well. And then that same year, I think, where like Lady Gaga had won it, she was like, it was like someone had just given her like her baby or something. She was crying so profusely over it, like it meant everything.
It's
in
like
the
when
world.
Ricky Gervais said, "It's like, don't cry, just take your reward and piss off." Mate, Leonardo DiCaprio's in so many good roles. Catch Me If You Can, when he's playing what's his name, Frank Abagnale Jr.
I don't know the dude's name, but I know the film. Yeah,
perfect, man. It's so amazing. Titanic again, Wolf of Wall Street, Django, The Revenant, Shutter Island. Fantastic lead performance in that.
I love Shutter Island.
What else, man? The Departed. He's super young, like he's so like with his shaved head.
I sometimes feel like Ben Affleck it was like super pissed off. Like he should have got a lead role in that film, because it's like a Boston-based film where he's not associated with it, or at least I don't think he's associated with it. I bet he's like some producer or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Departed's a sick film.
Departed's an amazing film, mate. That's like at least a 9 for me.
You a cop?
I remember I'd watched so many films of that ilk, and then there was one night I was like, I really want to watch like a really cool like action thriller with like an interesting plot, maybe a few twists at the end. And then I watched that and was like, fuck, that was way better than I needed. And then like I've watched it again and my feeling hasn't dissipated, and Leonardo DiCaprio plays a big role in that.
What would you say his best role is?
Ooh, I think you have to put Wolf of Wall Street up there, because he so naturally and effortlessly like seems to adopt this role of like a really charismatic but insecure man. And like so like he's obsessive, but because Leonardo DiCaprio does charisma fantastically. If he's been given a role where he can be charismatic, same with Catch Me If You Can, he's so good at that.
I feel like that's why he was so good at Great Gatsby as well, because that's all Gatsby, you know, Jay Gatsby is charisma, but he's like a man-child sort of charisma. And I think because you have that like boyish charm attached to DiCaprio, it works so well. Yeah,
I mean, he looks so good for his age. I mean, a lot of women I know swoon over, if even guys swoon over him like I do. Like, he's amazing. And I have to say as well, mate, watching him as a kid, for ages I associated his face, one as Jack from Titanic and two as Romeo. Like, I always thought of him as those two. Like, he always plays a part so well.
I dislike the Romeo and Juliet film because I
don't like the film that much.
I always got the vibe that those two hated each other. It's a bit like The Notebook. I got the vibe that they didn't like each other in real life, and you can be the greatest actor in the world, like trying to convince me that you are like super into that kiss when it's someone you clearly don't get along with isn't really that convincing for me.
Yeah.
But also, like, I have other issues with it too.
Yeah.
But one thing I give him props for was his performance in Django. Like, he's a super nice guy. I imagine saying the N-word all those times and being the most outrageous character and one of the most vile characters in cinema history, even though Samuel L. Jackson arguably is the most vile character in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, Sam Jackson, that's a...
Well, let's move on to Sam. Like, again, you can't mention great actors without Sam. He's done some big... I think he has one of the most commanding on-screen presences that you can see, and he's had that from the start. I mean, like, you go back to like Pulp Fiction days, how perfect
he's almost
iconic is he.
He's almost entered like a realm where you could just have like a film reel of him just saying motherfucker over and over again,
with a few bads thrown in as well.
Literally. And you could probably find a video of that on YouTube that's got millions and millions of views. And but he obviously goes a bit beyond that. Like, talking about Django, like that performance that he did, I thought was, I mean, it will go down in infamy as one of the most villainous characters in cinema history.
Yeah.
And he lends himself, I think, to that sort of like horrible grey area of hero. You know, he's never a full hero. He's always got an edge of grey or darkness attached to him. Even as Nick Fury, he's not the straight shooter, Captain America leader type.
Bend the rules type guy, you know, get the job done. But I think he often delivers it with a humour layer as well, which is what gives him that full package then. Like, he's not just coming at it from a serious perspective. It's like, wow, he's hilarious. In Pulp Fiction, mate, so many like quotable moments. Like when he's getting the guy to fetch his wallet. It's like, which one is it? It's the one that says "bad motherfucker." It's like, and he says it with like, there's almost no hint of irony in his voice as well, but it's still so funny. And one of my favourite like quotes from that, mate, that he says, which isn't even one that most people remember. You know, when they're talking about like difference between dogs and pigs or something, who does Thingy play? Who's his counterpart in Pulp Fiction? I can't think of his name.
John Travolta.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of his character though, John Travolta's character. But anyway, and he's just like, that's gonna have to be one charming motherfucking pig. It just like always takes me, man. And mate, he's been a Jedi, Mace Windu, and a very iconic one. So yeah, Coach Carter as well. Fantastic role.
I remember watching that at school. Like, our PE teacher used to get us to watch it. Oh, that's a sick film.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite films from childhood.
And it's one of those films where you sort of watch it and you're like, God, I hope this is a true story. And then you find out it actually is a true story.
Yeah.
Well, that's how it happened for me anyway. And I was like, this is amazing.
I agree.
And the sort of, I suppose that's one of the benefits of like a Samuel L. Jackson type guy, is that he lends himself to what I would call like, he's almost, even though he's playing obviously one of the most, not in Coach Carter, in most fictional characters, like he's playing a hitman, he's playing like the leader of, there's almost like a likability to whatever role he has, even when he's playing the most villainous character.
Yeah.
You're like, that's Samuel L. Jackson. Like, you always say it's Samuel L. Jackson, like he's almost transcended so much.
Like I'm saying, he's so commanding on screen, and he brings with him like a a great charisma. And the last thing I just want to throw out, because we haven't mentioned it, is obviously the Ezekiel quote as well, which is, I hear, what swayed Tarantino to hire him instead of another guy, because he nearly went with someone else. I don't know who it was. And Sam Jackson wasn't that popular, and so you can maybe half forgive Tarantino, but then on that Ezekiel delivery performance, it's like, it's got to be him. It's too perfect. So yeah.
Well, speaking of Tarantino films, I'll tell you what, like one of the guy that I really like. Yeah. I'm sure you probably like him, but I don't think you like him quite. I don't think you would put him in like your top 10 if we did top 10s. But I like Christoph Waltz.
He's close for me. He's a near miss for a top 10, shall we say, but certainly up there.
Yeah, I think maybe he doesn't have the broadest of catalogues, but I really enjoy his performance. Maybe it's because I really, 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 really liked his performance in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, I think you're probably with many, including me as well, who would say that's his best that I've seen. Because he used to do a lot of like Austrian soap TV for like years and years. I swear he was on Austrian TV for ages, and then just suddenly pops up in, it might have been Tarantino who like introduced him to the West.
Maybe.
And suddenly he's in a couple of other things.
Well, I know that Inglourious Bastards, I don't know if this is rumour, almost didn't happen until Christoph Waltz came in the picture. And that's something to be said about you as a performer. Yeah. That like a whole film rides on your shoulders. Like the art piece doesn't work unless you're the centre. Yeah. Like eye-catching piece of the art.
Well, I would be happy to say that scene near the start, it might be the very first scene,
I think it
is the best scene of the film. Purely because of him. Purely. It's like, he's not even speaking English for most of it, and yet it's still so captivating, and you're so like, you're just taken in by the performance. So yeah, he's way up there. And if you want to talk about another person who doesn't have a broad catalogue, but is like, hits the bullseye every single time, Viola Davis.
Oh, yeah, she's really good actually. Yeah.
Stupendous actress.
I can't remember what the most recent film I watched with her in it is though.
Well, like I said, I know that you haven't seen Fences, and it's a shame because that I think is her best role. And there's a quote which like if anyone is like listening, I'm not gonna like spoil it for you, but it kind of is talking about she's been standing with, but that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
But like it's one of the most powerfully emotive, like jaw drop, stop what you're doing, listen moments. It's so commanding and in such an emotional way. That's I think her best role. She plays a character called Rose. Stupendously real. She's in Antoine Fisher as well as like a really shitty mom who just abandoned him. Again, fantastic performance.
I think what probably makes her one of the best performers is I get the feeling that her stage portfolio probably lends to it, because I often feel like you can often see who the really, really like top end performers are when they've got like a stage background or they dabble in stage. You see this a lot in like the classically trained British actors that sort of like make their way over to America and like end up being super, super popular. Like Eddie Redmayne for like 2 years was really popular. Jude Law, David Tennant. I mean, he didn't really go over to America, but like he's really popular here.
Jude Law's a great example.
Yeah, I mean,
super actor.
They classically trained, and there's something to be said about people that go over to that world of stage and then flutter between both, and they bring, I think, new life to the stage, and they bring some old lessons from the stage and really invigorate performances. And she's arguably one of the most consistent. I mean, she's I think pretty much nearly all the films that I like, she plays a really good, almost strong, memorable side character. I remember her being in, even though I don't really like the film, I remember being in Suicide Squad, Law Abiding Citizen, Disturbia,
Solaris,
The Help. I think so. Yeah,
Widows as well. She's in.
Yeah, I remember Widows. Prison. Like we're talking about Jake Gyllenhaal. She was in Prisoners.
She was in. Mate, I didn't realize until after I'd seen it, but she's in Get Rich or Die Trying, the 50 Cent biopic. She plays I think she plays his auntie or something. And I'd seen it ages ago, and I haven't actually watched it again since finding that out. But I was like, no, I need to see that again now. What a little bonus for rewatching it. But if you want to talk about people who've done like stage stuff, mate, an actor who's known to have said that he actually prefers doing his stage stuff. He doesn't class himself as an on-screen, even though we know him so much as a movie actor. One of my top 3 actors of all time, the Denzel Washington.
Oh, right, yeah.
Man, I love that man so much. Nobody does like a charismatic expression that also commands respect, that also is all about like discipline. No one does discipline any better than him, to me. Like, especially like not just like a mixture of self-discipline and trying to instill discipline in others. Like, he plays a really strong sort of like father role, like a disciplinarian father role, but loving at the same time. But then there's like, that's why I thought Fences was great, because it adds a twist on that, because he's overly authoritarian. And then you get Flight, where he's just like really irresponsible.
I mean, he has been like a villain. I mean, or I would put him more as villain actually than anti-hero. But in Training Day.
Yeah, absolutely. Again,
I mean,
which is just testament to his range now. Training Day is one of his most iconic performances.
So for me, the performances that I attach him to the strongest are Malcolm X.
100%.
The Bone Collector. I mean, it's a bit of a odd one, but I remember he's basically
he's a quadriplegic.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have to move. He doesn't move. And yet he's still I'd say arguably the best character in the film.
Easily. And I think, for me, one of my absolute favourites is Man on Fire.
John Creasy.
Yeah.
Superb in that. He's superb.
Like, you could easily argue that like, I don't know if it's not a genre. I don't know what you call it, but it's like Man on a Mission, like Vendetta. You know, I've been wrong.
Yeah, like with an emotive, like savior.
I kind of want it to be an adjective. I want Man on Fire. I want that to be like an adjective, because it's such a enthralling piece of cinema.
Yeah,
and his performance in it, the conviction to get that girl back, or he doesn't know that she's alive at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it, but he goes on like a vengeance spree, and then he finds that she's alive, and all he wants to do is get her back, and he sacrifices himself. I mean, you know, and it's almost, I kind of want to watch it again, like just thinking about it.
Well, mate, so you need to watch another film where he does the same kind of thing, mate. Equalizer.
Right.
The Equalizer is an amazing Denzel film. I know you're not too into action, but this is one that has a lot of added depth to it.
You say that. I did like him in American Gangster, though. That's quite an action.
It is good. I think he utterly outshines Russell Crowe as well. As much as I love Russell Crowe's like stupendous performance in Gladiator, Denzel steals the show. He also he's fantastic as like a secondary character in Antoine Fisher as a psychologist. I think he's amazing in The Hurricane. But I'd have to say, mate, Crimson Tide, his performance in that is stellar. Again, it's like quintessential Denzel. Like, if you've already watched a few Denzel films and haven't watched Crimson Tide, you've got to watch it. Because he's so, again, capturing that moral compass and coming from ultimately, like, no matter what, you got to do what is right. Yeah. Don't ever give in to that. It's integrity. He captures integrity so well.
I hope I'm getting it right. I only remember seeing it once, but it's a dystopia film, and he's blind. The name's escaping me.
Book of
Eli.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I probably watched that at the wrong time. It was like super boring.
It's like probably not even in his top 20 films to me.
No,
I mean, I've watched about 18 Denzel films, and I haven't watched that.
But I remember, maybe I should rewatch it, but I remember it being a bit of a dud.
Yeah, I think it was a dud.
Yeah.
Average score was probably about 6, was it?
I don't know. I really don't know. But
mate, he's also sick in Remember the Titans, which I think is like a great alternative to Coach Carter. Maybe arguably slightly deeper. I mean, Coach Carter and Remember the Titans, I don't know which one came out first. They're basically the same film done slightly differently to me. And I'd actually put Denzel
year 2000, mate,
slightly above
Titans. I think
because Coach Carter was 05.
Yeah.
I think Remember the Titans is a slightly better film. What else would I big him up on? I get The Great Debaters as well, very good. Just a standard, very
Wait, there's one person. Role. Speaking of great actors, there's one person I'm surprised you haven't mentioned yet.
Well, we have certainly one more slot that I want to bring in.
I think we're probably best ending on that, to be honest, because I think I can't really think of any more for me personally. I know. There's a couple that I do like and want to see more from. I think he's one of the most underrated actors of all time.
Oh yeah, go on.
Nick Cannon, mate. Drumline's a sick film. What are you on about?
What? He can stick to presenting America's Got Talent.
I'm wilding out.
I'm wilding out.
Yeah. Oh. No, I'm just playing it. But to be honest, mate, Drumline's quite a good film.
Okay. I'm just going to go and listen to some Eminem songs and actually do something worthwhile.
Okay.
Okay.
If Kevin Spacey hadn't been doing what he was doing with those poor boys, I sometimes think what he's doing now, those videos that he keeps posting up, everything he does now and everything he has done has such a different tinge to it, where I can't view him in anything without it being like super sinister now.
No,
like
I mean, we used to like it. You think, haha, look at him. He seems so sinister.
Yeah.
And now like, oh fuck, maybe he is.
And then you almost think that makes him a bit of a less good. But he
what, there's no maybe. Sorry, what am I saying? Yeah. He is.
Like, he was arguably a lot of people's top pick as an actor.
Oh, superb actor. Someone very close to me very much appreciates him. Even still, his acting performance, that is, not to name names.
And I tell you what, the 2 videos that he released, like Let Me Be Frank, and To Kill Them With Kindness.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great little pieces, but you walk away from them feeling a bit vile.
You feel vile because you liked it. Because you go, wow, that was actually really, it was layered, it was captivating. I was like, it was a good performance. Then you're like, but okay. There's a vile reality to it. So, to leave with my last pick, again, one of my top 3, absolutely stupendous. It's got to be Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks, dude. Like, where do we start? Green Mile. Saving Private Ryan, Catch Me If You Can, Forrest Gump, Castaway, Woody in Toy Story, Bridge of Spies, Captain Phillips, Philadelphia. Every single role, phenomenal, most of them leads, and he just is bonkers. Third highest grossing actor, 4.3 billion, and with more than good enough reason. I love Tom Hanks. I think he's charming, he's different, he can be the only person on screen, and it's amazing. Like Castaway, like The Terminal, even as like a Russian, was it Russian or Polish or
I honestly can't remember.
Eastern European.
It's been years since I watched The Terminal, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Mate, just really like iconic character, especially Saving Private Ryan.
I'll tell you what though, mate. Like
he's
the thing that I would say about Tom Hanks, not to like
here we go.
No, flip the coin a bit.
Cue disparagement.
It sounds a bit like I'm just not bitter. I'm just not willing to commit. I agree, he's one of the greats, but every time I watch Tom Hanks, I'm like, it's Tom Hanks with a beard. It's for Castaway. It's Tom Hanks putting on an Eastern European accent. It's Tom Hanks acting like he's almost a bit like Samuel L. Jackson. He's transcended, like who he is just bleeds in every role.
He doesn't need to really adopt a character too much because he's so magnetic in himself. He doesn't really have to change too much. He just needs to say the right lines, wear the right things, look the right way, and that's it. Is that what you're saying?
Sure. No, to be fair, he is like a super great actor. I just feel like, apart from maybe 3 of those films that you mentioned, have I like super like gelled with and enjoyed. I just feel like some of the films that he's made haven't really been for me. And even like Cloud Atlas, which everyone, anyone that I know, I suppose like the more hipster type people really like, really bum. Yeah. They really, really enjoy it, and they really enjoy his performance in it and how he was daring and willing to try something like that. And I'll commend him on that. He's certainly versatile as actor. Yeah. I just find that he hasn't done a lot of things that I personally have liked, which is completely down to me.
From a man who hasn't seen Saving Private Ryan.
You've outed me, you bastard.
Oh, sorry. By the time this is out, you will have, so it's fine. Well, I wanted to finish on something about Tom Hanks, and I can't remember what I was going to say. What a wonderful way to end the episode. Right, this is a bullshit break. I'm going to delete this, mate, and we're going to... Captain Phillips. The whole film, he keeps it together. He's character. And then at the end, the way he breaks down and just changes. Like, mate, with the first time I watched that, I was like, dude needs an Oscar for this. It was so like emotionally disturbed to see this guy who's been so like strong and keeping it together and almost given no real clues that he's really like, he looks like a bit uncomfortable, but you think, why no, he seems like a strong guy, he's captain of the ship and like he's leading his men, he knows what to tell him to do, he's keeping it, and then the way he just becomes is basically this like boy, this like 5-6-year-old boy who's traumatized, and like to see that done so well in that scene, like I was like tearing up a little bit because I felt for him. I felt his vulnerability in that moment. So yeah, Tom Hanks, stellar for me, definitely one of the top ones. So
he's fairly up there for me, but like I said, I just haven't enjoyed.
That's cool, man.
No, it's fine. I just wish he did more movies I actually really liked. Yeah, it's probably a good place to end it, mate.
We'll end it there, mate. So what's the next DB episode we're going to be doing, Dogs Bollocks?
I think since we've discussed like who we think are the pinnacle of performers, I'd say maybe we should have a discussion about what films we think are the pinnacle, to us at least. Yeah,
the films that deserve to be given an out-and-out 10 out of 10.
At least as far as we're concerned, that is.
In our inexperienced.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Like when I'm like researching what films, like I go through my library, I'm probably going to find some actors where I'm like, no, why didn't I bring them up?
Well, the fact that we didn't actually talk about Jack Nicholson is probably a crime.
Jack Nicholson, and like Maggie Smith, Judi Dench, Helen Mirren. This is going to sound really weird, but like I recently watched The Last Holiday, and I really liked Queen Latifah.
Oh, mate, she's great.
Yeah.
And everyone forgets how brilliant a rapper she was as well. She was, like, superb rapper. Unity, mate. What a track. What a track. Like, she was a leading femc. And to this day, mate, he's one of the best female rappers easily. Good rapper, period.
I don't know her catalogue of work, to be honest, musically. I
will send you some stuff, mate. She's quality.
But there was like a period of time, like I think maybe the early 2000s, where she was in a lot, and maybe there's some nostalgia attached to it, like seeing her face. Yeah. I knew I was in for a good laugh when I watched something with Queen Latifah in it.
Yeah.
I don't know how well they've aged now in my mind, but we'll see. But yeah, I think movies is probably a good next place. It's a good introduction.
Great. Let's wrap it up there, mate.
All right.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Spicy.
For anyone who actually bothers.
We're very grateful.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Barrel podcast with Chris and Alex. Be sure to check out our other content, and if you like what you heard today, feel free to subscribe to keep up to date with future episodes. Thanks for listening.